Hello, everyone. Redhead Whiskey here, and today I am very much honored to have Sam Filmus here with us. Sam has a great history of establishing the American palate and introducing many new flavors to the American audience. You've started over 20 years ago with JVS, and I think you're close to 20 years of impEx Beverages. In 2 years, you're going to be celebrating, bringing new brands, bringing new flavors. I'm super curious to hear about how you're picking all of those. You're also keeper of the Quake, which is a highly recognized, honorable recognition of your contribution to the whiskey and spirits industry in the US. So thank you so much, Sam, for joining us today.
Thank you, Aline, for inviting. I've been enjoying your interviews and other posts and things that you do for the industry. I think for people like you, we enjoy being in this industry, and people like you make this industry so great.
Thank you for that. I have saved the Blair Athol that I have tasted from impEx. It is phenomenal. It is very much loyal and true to the Blair Athol profile that I love so much. I had a chance to taste it in your impEx Collections release this year together, and I think that one and the Tinninek were most remarkable in my palate, though the rest of them are spectacular as well. That was very much close to the palate that I stuck with in 25. So thank you so much, and cheers to you, Sam. Thank you so much for your for today and for those 20 years.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm glad you like both Highlands. Usually people stick with Speyside, more like giving the preference, or if you're Isleophile, you would go with the Islay. But Highlands, specifically the two that you just named, they're kind of overlooked, and they both are beautiful whiskeys, not just specific impEx Collection casks that we selected, but in general, I see more and more of one of your favorite, or maybe favorite, Blair Athol is being bottled by other independent bottlers, which is great, because otherwise it just gets lost in this big blend called Bell's, which is great to have it as not only single malt but single cask expression. Cheers.
Cheers, Sam. So, you're in the business for over 20 years, seeing the rise, the golden age, and now we're going through a different other challenges. So you're going through different aspects of the industry. What are you most proud of in those moments that you've gone through?
And you're right. Next year we're going to celebrate the milestone of 30 years being in business as a distributor, and in 2028 it's going to be 20 years as us being the importer. Yeah, we've been through a few things here and there, starting probably the most kind of a memorable thing, if I can call it memorable, would be like 2008, when the economy was not very good and we lost a few big brands, which dominated our sales and the portfolio and importance to the retailers and on sale accounts. And here we go, 2026, we're pretty much in an even worse situation, I guess. However, we never lose our hopes. We know that after the bad times, the good times will come, for sure. Don't know when, but hopefully soon. But I think with what we do with JVS and impEx, it doesn't affect us as much as maybe bigger guys, which I'm very sorry to hear, because yes, people change their buying habits, going from $150 bottle to a $50 bottle, or going to other categories like, RTDs and etc. But there's still a good number of people who enjoy craft, who enjoy something that's one-off. As you know, with the impEx Collection, we do one cask at a time, and the number of bottles are limited. So if this cask just throw 224 bottles, that's 224 people will get it, and it's going to be gone for good before another cask shows up on the horizon, or another independent bottle brings something exceptional. So that kind of keeps us successful and in business. So we're not happy with things that's going on today in the economy, in the industry, but at the same time finding something that still has some demand. That's what we're working on every day.
So how do you find that? How do you balance between popular flavors and craft? And so when you approach a new distillery, what are the three things that jump out to you that says to you, this cask is going to sell?
Well, if we're talking about the distilleries that we bring on board, my first thing out of three would be people behind the distillery. That's number one. I want to make sure that we share the philosophies, we share the passion, we share the enthusiasm, and understanding what the American market needs, and then trusting me by knowing what the American market needs. That's number one thing. Number two would be the quality and taste. And as a matter of fact, I don't see the prices before I taste them. That goes to the impEx collection specifically. And number three would be prices and how much is going to be acceptable to the American market because of our three-tier system.
Mhm.
As to single casks, it's a passion project for me. It's something that I'm not pushed to bring pallets of or cases of or a number of containers. We just do it once a year, and I just come across casks, and like I mentioned, there's no any price indication when I taste it. I want to make sure the taste is right, and I do it throughout the course of 2-3 weeks at least, tasting in the different environments, different body staging, etc. And then we just go with the price. And how do I adjust to today's market needs? I'll give you an example. One of the expressions of edition 5 of the impEx collection called Linkwood, and it's
Yeah.
a Chateau Margaux cask, finished in Chateau Margaux cask. And I loved it so much. I love Linkwood. I'm gonna confess. I love Linkwood. I love Mortlach. Those kind of things. Speaking of Speyside, are some of my favorite ones. And I loved it, especially with this Chateau Margaux additional layer of complexity that gave it. If I applied regular margins, the bottle would be on the shelf for $300. It's today on the shelf for $225. So basically, we decided not to make it likable by us, but by many people who cannot afford to buy a bottle of whiskey for $300. So
Mhm.
that was my bottom line. Basically, we just eliminated the tier, let's put it this way, where we split between the supplier and us to make it more affordable.
Wow. Well, these are tough choices. So, what made, with you being so focused on specific casks, what made you decide to go to importing rather than building your own brand or your own distillery?
Sure. So when I ran the distribution company about 2002, I believe, we started with Signatory and then Andrew Dow when Andrew bought the distillery. And then Gordon and MacPhail people approached us to represent their brands in California, and then came with Bedromach. And then was a lot other independent bottlers coming on board. We kind of became like a house of independent bottlers. So, if somebody was looking for a Linkwood 20-year-old and of Maltman, and we don't have it, we would say we have a Signatory Linkwood, etc. So it worked out perfectly for everyone. Everyone felt like they're within the competition, internal competition, but at the same time it worked out. But then when these brands went to a bit higher level, the importers decided to explore the opportunities with bigger houses. So we lost the brands. Then when we opened the importing company, that gave us the security that at least what we import is not going to go to anyone else. It's going to be within our network of distributors, including JVS in California. Then I brought a brand called Exclusive Malts, and David Steer, very talented person in the industry, great palate. and we worked out, the strategy, and we were brainstorming on things. We've been their importer from day one. We got to the point in about 7 years when exclusive malts became pretty well-known independent bottler, even though we were facing, independent bottlers that have been in the business for 150 years, like Hating Hats and Gordon MacPhail, etc. We were a new kind of block, but for whatever reason, we were pretty successful. And one day I got an email from David saying that he sold the brand to some people in China, some big, rich club or whatever. So I lost it. So whatever we were so excited about and we developed was gone. So that what brought me to the decision to make my own brand. And that's why it's called, the impEx collection.
I'm sorry, I keep getting calls.
No problem.
With that kind of leads me to asking, you kind of touched it, but I would like to elaborate on that, on what is the hardest part of being an importer? And, from bringing, you found a distillery that you want to bring in. Sometimes your choices are of, Linkwood or Blair Thule or other names that people don't know. You need to educate the market, you need to sell it. And as you're sharing, you're balancing prices and, making sure everybody benefits it. So out of that, by the time it gets to the shelf, what is the hardest part of being an importer?
The hardest part starts with me saying no to some casks. So I'm saying no to a lot of casks. And it's very difficult to say no because I like him. Maybe I don't love him, but I like him. They're solid whiskeys and all this stuff. But that would probably be the hardest part. The part that you would expect for me to say it was the hardest part, probably it's the easiest part in terms of explaining people, bringing the stories to people, sharing the stories about the distilleries, about people who make the whiskey. So if you do it with passion, it's always easy, I think. As to commercial part, again, being in this kind of times as we are right now, probably it makes it very difficult. Because if it was like 2021, 2022, even the beginning of 2023, anything you had in your warehouse would be sold, no problem. And then it kind of went down south dramatically, Q2 of 2023 for us. So that makes it probably more complicated.
How did you solve it then? I mean, in the downtimes, how do you approach the downtimes to get to the...
What we do, as an importer, we bring something that's very affordable. For example, we brought a blended scotch called McLean's Nose. That's part of Art Markin and the Delphi project.
Okay.
That has like 70% single malt and 30% single grain. And so it's the highest portion of single malt versus single grain. It's a great whiskey, 46% unchill filter, which is pretty unusual for a blend. Natural color, there's some sherry casks involved, etc. And it's on the shelf for $35. That's what sells for us beautifully, because people think it's a single malt. We say it's blended scotch by regulations, but it really thinks it's a single malt. So these kind of things. Then we're trying to find something as a world whiskey producers, not necessarily scotch, because scotch itself has a big competition within the category. So we're very successful with an Indian whiskey called Indri from India.
Phenomenal.
So
the Drew, yeah. Yes.
So big winner of any competition. Great whiskey, great price. Again, price is very important. And I was working with a distillery for a long time to make sure that the price is right. And they understood it, and we came to the consensus. And also when the tariffs came, and that applies to all our suppliers.
Yeah.
We all observed the tariffs 50-50. So whatever you see on the shelf right now, the price is not affected by tariffs whatsoever.
So talking about mentioning Indri and India, what are the regions that us, the enthusiasts, the collectors, the passionate people should know about that you think haven't been discovered yet?
Are you talking about within India or just world
No,
whiskey?
world whiskey. Yeah. What's
Sure.
coming up? Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, of course, out of Scotland, Irish whiskey has a huge following, right? Then Japanese whiskey, very popular category. I think the Indian whiskey is now next. It's gaining a lot of popularity, a lot of interest from single malt whiskey
Hmm.
connoisseurs. Um, we specifically bring the whiskey from Israel, which I think is a fascinating whiskey, and you're familiar with it. And thank you for all the support to M&H Distillery. This guy's doing a great job um, following the traditions of Scottish whiskey makers, but also taking advantage of the climate there in Israel. They do things they don't cut corners. We bring whiskey from New Zealand. We bring whiskey from Japan, four
Hmm.
Japanese distilleries out of Japan. English whiskey, tougher sale, tougher category, but we're very proud of bringing the Spirit of Yorkshire Pilot Bay whiskey
Hmm.
from England. Um, I know that Kavalan has a pretty good following. That's Taiwanese whiskey. Um, I feel like Australian whiskey would be a good category to look into. Um, I think now any country produces a very good single malt whiskey. You just need to find the right fit to the American market. But world whiskey is on the rise for sure.
How do you choose those specific ones that you think would fit the American palate? Do you try to find something that is closer to bourbon or surprising or closer to single malt? How do you make that decision?
So a lot of distillers that we import are being or have been consulted or were consulted by late Dr. Jim Swan, and his STR invention to some way brings people who like bourbons to our table because that you got to shave toast, recharge it, and that's
Hmm.
basically what bourbon does with the new oak. This is just another new oak, but similar. Um, I would also say, what we spend a good time of educating people. When people think whiskey, they don't understand this. The whiskey could be single malt Scotch, could be whiskey bourbon. When they hear Scotch, oh, Scotch, I don't like Scotch because it's peated. Well, not all the Scotches are peated, as we know, right? So it's something that's fun to get engaged into a discussion and maybe in some sort of explanation of what, and they're like surprised when they hear the differences, but also what's common in, like today's in America, single malt whiskey is a separate category. So it's similar to Scotch whiskey, but the difference is the climate and there's a lot of things to talk about. And I think whiskey is something that you enjoy not by yourself, but surrounded by friends or people who are curious, and the conversation flows.
So, someone like me that really likes and enjoys the whiskey world, both as a consumer but also from the business side, what sort of qualities do you think would make someone successful in that business? After 20 years of up and downs and different changes, you're survived. What does it take to survive in the business?
I think if we put it in the order of priority, I would say that the first thing is the transparency, the honesty and transparency. Like we put on a label as much information as possible so people who drink the whiskey, they know what they put in their body.
Hmm.
Things like we never do anything if it's not unchill filtered, it's not natural color. So everything is stated on the label. We also, if it's in the example of the impEx collection, we put the distillation date, the bottling date, the number of bottles out of this cask, the number of the cask, tasting notes. If there's like specific wood type involved, we put the wood, like everything, maybe even more than you need to know. But we're believing in this is the big reason of our success that we're honest, we're open, we're transparent.
Hmm. And
That's number one. There's a lot of other things, but we do like a lot of tastings and dry demos and crew education, all this stuff. I think this is another thing that needs to be explained today because a lot of people, younger people, they're curious. They want to know why this non-age statement whiskey that from distillery that opened like less than 10 years ago tastes so great. Or a 3-year-old whiskey from M&H distillery, why? And when they get the explained, that makes sense to them and that the whiskey tastes better than when
and
they know
what
the
is it
story.
in you that helped you go through and sticking to the industry and basically continuing with a successful business through the ups and downs?
My wife called me workaholic, maybe. It's close to alcoholic. But to me, I love it. And they say, if you love what you do, you never worked a day in your life. So I'm just keep going and seeing people appreciating what we do or our selection or something. We didn't do the whiskey. We didn't make the whiskey, right? But, we got involved in that
Hmm.
from the importer side, from the selection and bringing it here, which is a pretty complicated logistical side of it. Seeing people happy makes me happy.
And how do you keep the passion? I always ask myself, how do I keep the passion going? I mean, I'm passionate about it now and in the past 4 years, but how do you keep it going for such a long time?
Uh, I don't know how to answer this. Maybe you should ask my doctor. Don't know. It's just I love what you do. I love being among people. I like a good drink. Like as you see by my Russian accent, I'm from Moldova, which used to be
Hmm.
part of Soviet Union, and that's where Russian accent. Um, Being students, we drank a lot of bad quality vodka, like a lot. I don't know how my liver is still functioning and it's alive, but that's what every because you can't afford to do something better than just a cheap vodka. Now, when I have a chance to drink some great quality, high quality brown spirits, just makes me feel very good about it.
Yeah, you touch your that your background and I'm thinking about my background and my upbringing of Eastern Europe as well, and if you can refer to it that way, Ukraine and Poland and those areas. So do you remember a specific moment where you decided to be a part of the spirits industry? What was that moment that made you decide that?
Well, your roots come from Poland and Ukraine, although it's bordering um, basically Ukraine, and then my Soviet Union army was in Ukraine for 2 years. It was a mandatory thing. But Moldova itself is a very small agricultural country,
Hmm.
and the majority of what they do is growing, grapes and making the wine. And when I came here, I started with the ethnic wines to kind of bring the nostalgic kind of memories to our parents and people who remember their first kiss, their first great time, and etc. when they had a glass of wine.
Hmm.
Um, but then, in about 5 years, I realized that generation of our parents is going to be gone, and my kids will not go to just Russian stores or So I had to widen the spectrum of what I'm bringing in and what I'm offering to be more desirable to retailers and restaurants and bars. So that's where the idea came. But also in Moldova, when we were talking about whiskey, we were thinking about something like a white dog or something very that in the low quality. But my first Scotch here was a Chivas, and I loved it. And that's where like my directions lean towards Scotch.
Um, through, you've met some of the most um, the celebrities of the whiskey world and the spirit world, and you've gone through, as I mentioned, the ups and downs. So, what is a memorable moment for you in those a few memorable moments from those 20 years?
Yeah, few memorable moments. I would say, and thank you for not giving me one choice because that would be difficult too. But I'm gonna try to, like you mentioned. Well, I mentioned the Shivas. The life goes by spiral circles. So here we go with me bringing Glenallachie, who, which he used to be, maybe still is, one of the major components to Shivas, and meeting Billy Walker and being around him. Like, we met a few times. I remember one night, went to the restaurant after visiting the distillery. I brought the whole team. And at the time, Joshua Hatton was with us as a national sales director. And we went to the restaurant, and about 5 a.m., and Billy's ordering another 2 bottles of white wine, everyone having a great time. And he's telling me the stories. It's like if I had to go to the library and read everything, the information, digest it, or if I Googled it, it would take me years and I would never get what I got from him for this 5 years being around him. Charlie McLean, another great example of, I mentioned McLean's nose, that has to do with his name and his stamp of approval, etc. That's another, person that being right next to him, it's just God-given blessing. Anthony Wills, I can go on and on. Alex Bruce, super reputable people in the industry. They say something, they're responsible for their work, but most importantly, what they achieved and their stories, it's unmatchable.
So, Sam, if I would make a bottle that would be a Sam bottle, what would it be?
Oh, there'll be something that I haven't brought in yet. I don't know. It's going to be spirit. It's going to be over 40%, most likely 46 to 50. And it's going to be something, could be blend. I have no problem with the blend. I think blends are great. Some of them are better than the components if you try them just as a single malt, for example, Scotch. Sometimes the blend is better. I don't know whether the be. I mean, it would be something that connects cognac and Scotch and maybe some weird mezcal, like everything a little bit put together. I don't think it's going to be good, but that's what I would aim for.
Is it going to be peated or unpeated?
Mezcal will give him a little bit of a smoke, and of course, there will be. I like the peat and sherry, so probably will be some Palo Cortado or Oloroso or something that would fit the profile that no one, including me, knows what it's going to be.
So if you are to give me an advice on how to be successful in the spirits industry in the next 5 to 10 years, what would it be?
Well, number one, you already achieved a lot. Running, I believe, 3 clubs now in New York, New Jersey, I think. Interviewing a few people, and I know that you interviewed at least one of our suppliers, maybe even more. Annabelle Thomas, probably more. I apologize if I missed.
That's actually one of the most curious choices that you've made. Because you found them very early, and I'm always thinking, how did you see, that they're going to develop the way they developed, because they were very initial. It was very hard to tell at that time, sustainability is a good word, yes, but is it going to be worth the palate? And you saw it. And up until today, that's what, that's the charm and the magic of it. You were able to see it.
So, as I mentioned before, a lot of distillers that we have were consulted by late Dr. Jim Swan. Nick Neal is not an exception. He was there from day one. Unfortunately, he was not able to see the fruits of his work because he passed away in 2017, I believe. And the whiskey was not ready by that time. But, like I said, today people go for, oh, it's organic, or it's women's led, or women owned, etc. We always put that behind. Our first thing is the quality. Of course, Annabelle and her group, her team did a great job on designing the bottle. And wherever we go, the bottle is something that people, oh, it's designed by a lady, by a woman. That's kind of carte blanche for this introduction. But quality first, and then the story comes of it being organic. I feel using the organic barley, its benefit, especially after visiting the distillery and so the process and all the stuff. It's fascinating, and what they do in terms of sustainability for sure, 100%. So it's all kind of a we don't put the carriage behind the horse because I don't think it's fair to mislead people or being biased or being because it's organic, it's good. It's good and it's organic.
Last famous words. Is there anything that I haven't asked you and that you would like to share?
Um, I think we covered a lot. What I'd like to share probably is that I want to thank your listeners and your people who watch here for all the support that they've been giving us and they will give more. I want to thank them in advance and that you're the great messenger for that. So thank you as well.
Thank you so much, Sam. And Blair Thul, Slange. Cheers.
Slange. Cheers.
Okay, I'll stop the recording.